Every single day for the past 30 days, I've hangboarded twice per day. As a climber, I'm always interested in ways to improve my climbing ability, and hangboarding seems like one of the best methods to improve my strength. So I set out to see how much improvement I could make at climbing by hangboarding every single day, twice a day, for an entire month. Who knows what would happen to my fingers by the end of the month? Would I become really good at hangboarding? Would I be able to jump up a couple grades in my climbing? Or would I get injured from overdoing it with my fingers? Only time would tell. I tested myself at the beginning of the month and at the end of the month with a set of benchmarks so I could see how much improvement I made throughout the full month. And I just got back from doing my final test of hangboarding to see how much I've improved, and the results kind of took me by surprise. To start this test, I did a max hang, which was hanging on a 20mm edge on the hangboard with more than my body weight, progressively adding more and more weight until I could barely hold on. I basically wanted to do a max hang and see how much weight I could add in addition to my body weight before I could not hold it anymore. And then I also did timed hangs on small rungs on the hangboard. So I did a timed hang on the 10mm edge, and I did a timed hang on the 8mm edge. And let me just say, this fingerboarding session absolutely ruined me. It was so tiring. I did the max hang first, and then I did the timed hangs afterward. So my fingers were really fatigued by the end of it. This routine was inspired by Emil Abrahamsson, another YouTuber who makes climbing videos, who did this bombshell video where he hangboarded every single day, twice a day for an entire month, and saw crazy results. Any climber watching that video would immediately be like, okay, I have to try some of this secret sauce. But he's also a much stronger climber than me. He boulders like what, V13 plus? It's insane. I'm kind of maxing out at like V5, V6. I'm just starting to project a V6, but my fingers are not nearly as accustomed to hangboarding, hanging on small edges and max hangs as Emil is. So I wanted to know, what could an average lowling climber like myself do for a routine like this? And a little bit about me, I've been climbing for the past 10 years, and I saw a massive plateau at about that 2-year mark, around 511 plus / V4 boulders, outdoor grades. But I started to get a lot of injuries and just kind of stay at that same level for 8 years. It's kind of scary to admit that. But then this past 7 months, I've started to implement a new routine, and I've actually been able to kind of kick out of that plateau and see some really big improvements, in my opinion, in my climbing. I posted a video about that, how to get past the V4 plateau. You can check that out on my channel. But like that V4 plateau video, I am always seeking out ways to rapidly improve my finger strength. I mean, who wouldn't want that? And so I set out on this 1 month long challenge to hangboard every single day to see how much I could improve. Now, I didn't enter this challenge without a little bit of skepticism. One, because there's not that much data about how this training works on a lot of climbers. Emil's routine was inspired by a study that he read about that stated more or less straining and exercising the fingers with about 6 hours of rest can help to improve climbing gains. That was probably a horrible paraphrasing, but you can read about the study. I'll include a link in my bio. But there was evidence that suggested repeated stressing of the fingers throughout a day with ample rest time can help to improve your finger strength and finger health. And after I did these benchmarks, I started the hangboard routine every single day. And the hangboarding routine was really simple. It was 10 minutes of hangboarding, and it was basically a 1-minute circuit in which you would do 10 seconds of hangs followed by 50 seconds of rest. And the catch with this hangboarding routine is that it was all performed by doing what's known as no hangs. No hangs is when you hang with a little bit of your body weight on the floor. So you're not even putting full weight on your fingers when you're hanging from the board. And this is supposed to prevent injuries and just be a less straining force on your fingers. Because, I mean, when I first heard about hangboarding twice a day, every single day, that sounded like, okay, my fingers can't take that, I'm gonna get injured. But by doing the no hangs, you limit the strain. And by the end of the first week, I was pretty impressed. My fingers weren't feeling bad or rough or injured in any sort of way. If I was gonna do this again, I would want some method to have a more accurate idea of how much weight I'm actually putting onto my fingers. And something that you could use to do this would be a scale. So have a scale underneath you, weigh yourself at the start, and then try to get to that 80 or 90% of your weight on your fingers by seeing the numbers go way down. So in detail, the hangboarding routine that I followed was to do 2 repetitions of hanging on the flat, very in-cut jug edges. And then I started to work towards the 20mm edge. I did that a couple times, and then I did 3-finger drags. I did open hand. I did half cramp grip positions. Sometimes I worked on pockets. What I wanted to do was kind of provide variety in the training program so I could work on things that I wanted to work on. I would occasionally hang from slopers as well. It wasn't the same thing every single session, but it was hangboarding mostly on a 20mm rung. Throughout this month of hangboarding, I didn't change up my routine from climbing, so I would also go to the gym and climb outside. However, it was winter when I was doing the routine, so outdoor climbing was not the easiest to come by, and frankly, I didn't go to the gym probably as much as I usually do. Which led me to just wonder, how was I gonna see massive results doing this routine if I wasn't climbing that much, and I also wasn't doing max hangs. I was hanging actually with like the opposite of a max hang. I was doing less force. And in doing my research for this video, it seems like my curiosity and skepticism was also shared by the Hooper's Beta YouTube channel. Dr. Hooper watched and reacted to the video, and he also was curious about how somebody could see such dramatic improvements in their max hang by not max hanging for an entire month. And so even with that skepticism, I continued to do the routine every single day for the entire month. And I have to say, what started out as a pretty fun routine at the beginning, something that I was excited about to see, hopefully see these massive gains, slowly turned into a pretty boring routine that I kind of dreaded every single night. Now I think this has to do with my placement of my hangboard. It was in the garage. It's not like I could just crawl out of bed, hangboard, get on with my day. I had to put on a jacket oftentimes, go out to the garage, turn on the light. It was cold in there, hangboard, and then come back inside. And it's not really something that I looked forward to by the end of the month. I also think my time management wasn't the best because I didn't hangboard at the same time every single day. Oftentimes I would hangboard because I forgot about it, and it's like, oh shoot, I'm coming back home from getting dinner. It's 9 p.m. It's dark, it's cold. I'm gonna go hangboard before like crashing asleep. So my advice is do not put your hangboard in your garage if you're gonna attempt a routine like this. Hopefully it's in a more hospitable location. And now on to the moment you have all been waiting for. Let's talk about my results. Coming back to doing those benchmarks that I did at the start of the video and see how much I've improved in my hangboarding. I started loading weight onto myself. I got to that 90-pound mark and I continued to add weight. I was pretty impressed at how much more weight I was able to add in my max hang, and I actually saw the biggest improvement out of all of the hangs in this area, in my opinion. I couldn't believe how much weight I was able to add, considering I didn't do a single max hang for the course of a month. I would see that as a huge win. And then onto the 10mm rung. When I grabbed onto this, my fingers felt pretty solid. It just felt more comfortable hanging from a small edge, which is not something that I'm really used to. I held on for almost twice as long as I was able to hang at the start of the month, so I would also count that as a huge win. And then unfortunately, I was traveling when I did the final benchmark test. They didn't have an 8mm rung, so I had to do the closest thing, which was a 6mm rung. You can see here the test, this was just like so small. I thought I could hold on for a little bit. Maybe you would count that for like half a second. Not a huge improvement in the 6mm rung. Now, if you're like me and you've seen Emil's video and now you've seen my results and you think, wow, if all you have to do is hangboard twice a day for a month and you see these huge results, I want to talk about one of the biggest things to watch out for before you conduct an experiment like this. And I think it has to do with my intentions at starting this routine. I hangboard because I want to get better at climbing and improve my finger strength. I want to be able to hold on to smaller things more confidently and with more power. Throughout this month, I didn't necessarily see huge improvements in my climbing, but what I did see was huge improvements in my hangboarding. This is a routine that you want to follow if you want to get better at hangboarding. Now, I think I wouldn't be surprised if I continue to see improvements in my climbing grades. And I think that's a huge accomplishment and something to be very proud of, because I lived at that plateau for so long, and seeing any sort of progress I think is a win, but I haven't seen massive gains on the climbing wall after doing this routine. I'm currently projecting this V6 Plus outside, and I posted a video about my first session at the start of the month, and I just went back to do the boulder about 2/3 of the way through this hangboarding routine, and I made some progress to the boulder, but it's not like I was able to send it next go, or I'm able to skip a couple of grades in my climbing ability. The fact of the matter is that climbing is a very complex sport that requires a lot of different stimulus to see improvements. Sure, addressing weaknesses, maybe your weakness is finger strength by doing hangboarding, might cause you to see massive gains, but working on actual climbing, working on flexibility, mobility, and strength, working on finger strength, all of these things factor into how quickly or how you're able to progress along climbing grades. I'm not going to be able to just do a routine like this and jump a couple grades by the end of the month, as much as I wish that could have happened for me. And who knows, maybe it'll happen for you if you want to try something like this yourself. And so those are my results after hangboarding every single day, twice a day for a month. I hope you enjoyed my video. Maybe you'll try it yourself. Let me know in the comments. If you liked it, consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and I will see you next time.